Welcome to Relationship Equity, a podcast that explores how successful people cultivate meaningful connections with others in their personal and professional lives. Learn from the stories, insights, and advice of leaders, innovators, and influencers who have built strong bonds with their teams, their customers, their communities, and their families. Here's Richard Walker.
My guest today is Mercedes Bidart, the co-founder and CEO of Quipu Bank, a platform enabling communities to redesign their economies by transforming credit assessment for micro businesses. Mercedes, welcome to the podcast. So great to see you again.
Great to see you, Richard.
Looking forward to this chat today for a lot of different reasons. There's no doubts that you're going to inspire a lot of people with the wonderful things that you've achieved in your young life, because unlike me, you're still young and there's going to be a lot more you're going to achieve for the rest of your life. But I want to get a feel for your for why it is that you're so passionate about the work that you do. And to me, it all stems from your upbringing. You know, there's obviously a lot more to it than that, but we're all very much products of our environment. And I'd like to learn about your early childhood. Let's talk about how you grew up and then the crazy journey that you've been on and continuing on, because I do want to talk about what's in the future for you. I want to talk about kind of the past, where you are right now, and let's talk about what you see in your crystal ball for the future. So how about we start from Mercedes as a young girl. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Buenos Aires, the capital city of Argentina. You know, I grew up actually on the outskirts of Buenos Aires in a neighborhood called Vicente López, a residential neighborhood. You know, I was born and raised there. Now I'm not living in Argentina, but I can go there later. So I was born in a family of entrepreneurs. My mom and my dad, they have a medium-sized business in Argentina that my dad built out from zero. He's not coming from a family that, you know, he inherited something, but actually he's a self-made man. So I grew up seeing my family business actually, you know, growing, but also having problems in a really difficult country in terms of the economy, right? Like a country that is always in economic crisis. So I grew up in a really resilient family that they gave me everything that they could. And, you know, in a medium class, if you want, family. I went to a Catholic school. And I think that's what I remember from my childhood, like coming back home from school and my dad and my mom always talking about the business. So since I was a little girl, I was always involved in the conversations of how they were dealing with employees, how they were like dealing with suppliers. And so I think that's something that it's natural for me in a way of being surrounded by entrepreneurs. So I grew up with my mom, my dad, and my brother. My brother is smaller than me. He's younger than me. He's 6 years younger than me. He's also involved in the family business. But then, even though I grew up, learning about it, then I decided I didn't want it to be part of that business. I didn't want it to be a business administrator or anything like that. So I studied political science when I finished school in a public university. That my dad was like, why would you study political science? Why would you go to a public university? Why don't you study engineering or, business administration? You are like the smart kid of the family, because I'm the first university graduate from my family. So for them, it was like, you have the chance to study, you can do it. Why don't you study something different? And I was like, no, I want to change the world. I want to study political science. So those were my first steps after high school.
Were they supportive of that? Because, it's very difficult for a parent, the fine line between encouragement and support and trying to influence your child to be on a path that you think they should be on. And there's a fine line there. Did they think you were just crazy? Or did they say, Mercedes, if that's what you want to do, off you go?
Yeah. So my mom was always really supportive. Like for her, it was great. Like whatever I decided to do, that was fine. But for my dad, he was like, I think he asked me the 5 years I've been studying political science, he was asking me what I was doing. Like what was that about, what I was going to live off, It was not until he saw that actually I was doing, because I started working, I think I was in my second year of university when I started working in a really prestigious think tank in Argentina. So he saw that, okay, she can, study, work from what she's studying. So then he started to understand. And obviously now he's the proudest dad. And like when I went to MIT, he was like MIT dad on the t-shirt. But yeah, I mean,
So
they are supportive.
let's do this. Let's jump right to today. I want our listeners to hear the incredible things that you're doing today. And then we'll probably work backwards and then go forwards a little bit. So why don't you just tell our listeners what it is that you're doing today? What company do you have? And the role that you're playing. And let's take it there.
Well, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Quipu. Quipu is a platform where we built out AI scorings to assess creditworthiness of the informal economy. So of that, 60% of the world is informal, the economy. And basically, we found ways in which we can understand their creditworthiness and provide loans and basically working capital for them to grow their businesses, even if they are informal, even if they are unbanked, and even if they don't have a credit history. So we built out that way of using non-financial information to assess creditworthiness. And now we are a platform that is all across Colombia. So we are in any corner of the country. People can access with their phone to a loan, applying in 15 minutes. And they start building with us their credit scoring for their business. So yeah, that's what I'm doing today. And I'm based in Medellin, Colombia.
So how did that come about then? Because did something else similar to your business exist before you created Quipu? Or were you really the pioneer of this idea? Because let me just simplify what I think I understand about what you do. So you provide the ability to small businesses to get loans where traditionally they probably wouldn't get those loans by traditional scoring. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So how did that come about then? Why?
We started with a different idea. Coming back to my time in Argentina, I worked for a think tank in the informal, working in public policy around informal economy and informal housing. So supporting mayors to build policy in their cities around that. That was what I was doing. And then I worked for a microfinance institution as a volunteer. I was going every Saturday for 3 years, supporting small business owners in informal settlements. So in really, favelas, kind of like really low-income neighborhoods. So by doing that, I understood that was what I was interested about, in like how we can build wealth in these neighborhoods that have always been left out, basically out of the financial and the economic system. So that was like my experience, if you want, on the ground, understanding that there was a need there, right? And then when I went to do my master's at MIT, that was in city planning, so it was about how we think on solutions for cities. I focused on, there's a lot of technology I could be using for this, right? Like public policy is not looking at that. Public policy is actually like having a limit on solutions for a city, but they're not thinking of things that could be scalable and actually meet the needs of people on the ground. So when I went there and in this university that for me was like Disney, right? Like really insane on all the things I could be doing. I was like, okay, let's like match tech with the needs of people and seeing what we can discover and what we can do. So there the journey started. And at the beginning, the idea was completely different. The idea was a marketplace with a local currency in which people could barter without using money. I built out that. We implemented that, like we deploy it in some neighborhoods. And by doing so, in the iteration of the product, we understood that actually their main pain point was not a marketplace, even if they were not digital, and was not like this new currency we're building. They actually needed fiat currency to buy supplies and grow their business. So by being there on the ground, understanding their real problems, I understood that, okay, these people, like, actually they're having businesses of more than 5 years. All the family works here. They, like, the neighborhood is sustained by all these businesses, but still they can't access capital. Not even microfinance institutions, not even other fintechs that are doing consumption loans. They end up going to the predatory lender. So I've seen that with my own eyes, and we started, okay, what happens if all the information we collected in this marketplace, that was our first idea, what happens if we start using that information to score their business on how good it is, how good it could be, and we give them like literally $10 loans. Like, that's how we started. The idea, when they ask me like, oh, how you came out with this idea? Well, actually, it's not that you came out with the idea when you are like in a shower, like people say. That's not like that. It's actually an iteration. It's like being really involved with a problem you want to solve. And then by solving the problem, you end up with a correct idea. But it's by actually people telling us what is the best idea to do, not us, coming there as it was in the beginning with that cool idea we had of the barter system, but in the end was not what they needed.
I think there's a very important lesson learned there for anybody who's thinking of starting their own business. I wonder just how many successful businesses started with one product or service and migrated into something completely different after they got into it. There's so many products out there on the market right now that it didn't start there. I think about pharmaceutical products and the problem that they were looking to solve, and they end up solving a completely different one by accident. But the key is, you mentioned a word earlier on, and I think this is partly of it. Resilience is the word that you used, but there's a lot of other words we can use as well. But let's talk about resilience to start for a minute, because you said you learned resilience watching your parents with their business. Talk to me about resilience. What does that mean to you?
A lot. I mean, my whole life is around resilience. For example, just on the case of my dad, what I've seen is that first I saw it on their marriage, like, because they are together since they were 15 years old. And imagine, like, all their life. They had really big problems when I was like 17, 18 years old. And I thought they were not going to recover after that. And now they are still together, but living a good life. Like, they're, enjoying their time together. So I've seen that in their marriage. I've seen that in their business, because, as I said, in Argentina, 2001, it was like a terrible crisis, right? Where literally, for people that don't know what happened, like, the government kept the money the savings that people have on the banks. So, like, people don't believe on Argentinian pesos right now. There's a lot of problems on importing supplies. So they deal with all those problems all across the years, and the business is still there, and actually now is growing with my brother, right? So for me, it was like, okay, this is natural. Like, this is what it's meant to be. So then I'm not afraid of facing problems. Like, in Quipu, we changed the idea once. As I told you, we had a really big pivot. That's really difficult, because at that point when we did the pivot, I decided to leave the US. So I quit my job in the US. I was working for the mayor's office in New York. I went to Colombia without knowing anybody in Colombia. I was like by myself with my co-founders. And the idea I thought was going to work, it didn't work. So at that point, it was like, okay, we need to pivot. And we noticed that the solution needs to be another solution. So I think that, like, to make things happen, and mostly when we are innovating for the base of the pyramid, as they call it, which is different from the problems that we face, because I don't consider I am from that segment, right? But it's like how we can actually have a lot of resilience and perseverance to say, okay, if this is not working, I need to put my ego aside. This is not about me. This is about what I want to see in the world, right? So I think that, like, those things come together, like how we are resilient, but at the same time, how we think, okay, if what I'm doing is not me, it's something that I want to see happening, right? And if you don't, and it happens a lot of times to me that I notice, wait, this is an ego problem that I'm having. So it was not until I put my ego aside that I was able to transform it into the next step.
So you would, I would say, you have very strong self-awareness, because the ego word it's a very powerful word, and it can either work for us or work against us, because obviously it's very tightly tied to pride, and people that are very proud, sometimes we don't like to admit that we're wrong. But to your point, the first thing to consider is, what does the business need? Not what does Mercedes need. It's not about you. It's about the bigger picture. It's about what you're trying to accomplish as a business. And I think I see a lot of people that I work with and that I know that have a hard time understanding that concept. It isn't about you. It isn't about me. It's about what you're trying to accomplish. And it isn't even who has the best idea. It's what is the best idea, and let's run with it. I'm always very, very impressed with people that have successful businesses that start from scratch, because 90% of businesses fail. Did it ever cross your mind? Was there a point where you said to yourself, "Okay, enough is enough. This thing that I thought was going to be a good business is not going to happen. Enough. I'm going to go back and get a job." Did that ever cross your mind?
Well, it never crossed my mind going to get a job. No, because I discovered that I'm an entrepreneur. Like, I love being an entrepreneur. It's my DNA. But I wanted to quit 1,000 times. I had really really deep moments of saying, this is enough. I want to go to the beach and sell crafts. Like, I want to be a full-time surfer. Like, this is enough. And at that moment, it's when I realized that I was feeling that because I was putting the ego as, like, I was thinking about me. Like, I was really scared of failure. And this is not that I already know how to deal with it. No, this happens to me every 4-6 months. I have this crisis where I need to say, okay, this is not about me, move, I need to continue. And one of the wiser advices I had is that I'm here to make things happen, that if I cannot do it, then I need to step aside and someone else will do it. And that's fine. But it's not until I remember that, saying okay, no, I need to remember that it's the ego, blah, 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 that I'm able to, continue. But this happens so many times.
When you pivoted to your new idea, with your co-founders, at what point did you realize we've got something real here? This is it. This is going to be successful. We're going to make a difference in the world. At what point did you know that? Did you feel it? Was there something? Can you remember the time, the day when that happened?
Yeah, I love that question. Because it makes me think, because I think I never thought about it. Actually, we were 5 co-founders at the beginning. Another mistake I made, because it's not necessary to be so many people, but at that time I was so scared that I brought a lot of people into the project, right? So we were 5 with the first idea. Then we iterated until we got to the new one. 2 of them left, so 3 of us stayed. So that was also important, because the energy changed in the team.
Right. How did the energy change?
We were having a lot of discussions, and there was a lot of problems of who was doing more. Because imagine a team of people from really big cities, really used to live in New York, Madrid, Buenos Aires, whatever. And we moved to a city that is a 1 million people city, 40 centigrade degrees all year long. So super hot. I don't know in Fahrenheit how much is it, but really, really hot. You cannot stand here without sweating. There was not a lot of activity in the middle of COVID. So there was still lockdowns out there. And the idea we had was not working. So you can imagine all that. It was like a social experiment, Basically, we were no, things were not working. And not all of us have the same resilience and the same commitment with the idea, even if the idea is not working, right? So then 2 of them left. And that was really good because, as I said, the energy changed. And the 3 of us that stayed, we were okay, let's make this happen. Whatever it needs to be the solution, we don't care. Let's make it iterate. So that was really important. And then when we launched the loans, the moment we launched the loans was also a really funny story. We said, okay, let's start. We noticed people needed the loans, right? So we started with a partnership with a microfinance institution. we told them, look, we will build the score based on this data that we thought was going to work, but we didn't know at that point. We will give you the score. You give the money. It was a $10,000 like pilot. So you give out loans with this money. And in the end, we see how good it was and see if we scale it with the money of the microfinance institution or we ourselves start to lend. We started that pilot, and they were taking a lot of time to decide if giving or not a loan to someone, and that's not how experimentation works. So it was really difficult to like grow, the experiment fast. That's what we need with like startups. Our main competition is time. Like we don't have time, right? So at that point was one day when a woman from this neighborhood applied to the loan, and she had a sex shop. And the story of this woman is really funny. A sex shop. She sells sex stuff from her house in this informal settlement, like low-income neighborhood. And she sells this stuff because it was what helped her when she had cancer to feel like powerful as a woman. So it has like a really nice thing in the back of why she sell sex toys, right? So she applied to the loan, and we went to the microfinance institution and we told them, look, this woman has a really good score. She sells a lot of this stuff. And we think that we should give her a loan of $200. And the microfinance institution said, no, this is unethical. We cannot give her a loan to this type of business. And we were like, why this is unethical? So at that point, we said, no, we need to be the ones giving her the loan. So that was the day when we started giving out ourselves the loans, and we started seeing growth in the number of people coming to us, to our platform, and all the data they were willing to give us to access a $100 loan, a $50 loan, right? So we said, well, wait, here we have something. Like, people need the money because they are taking the time to give us all this information on how their business is working, information that it's not online, it's just in their heads.
So did you continue with that then, with you being the loaner of the money?
That was the moment where we were the ones.
So that's probably the best thing that could have happened, is this bank.
The sex shop lady.
So it was a sex shop that really launched your business. That's really funny.
Yeah. Now she's super successful. She got a lot of loans from us. She grew her business.
I could make all kinds of inappropriate jokes, Mercedes, but I probably shouldn't. I'll do that offline with you another time, because that's what a great way to launch your business and a great story to tell. I want to get into what happened next. We've got to stop here. We'll get into that in part 2, Mercedes. And Mercedes will also share some valuable advice for entrepreneurs.
It needs to be people that are committed to a problem, that, are really connected to a problem they want to solve. Not just that they want to build a company and be their own boss and be rich. No, that's not, I think, the equation, because this is not a path straight to be rich.
This has been Relationship Equity. If you want to take your career, your business, or your personal relationships to the next level, reach out to Richard at yorksolutions.net. You can also get Richard's book, Relationship Equity, your cornerstone investment to great gains in business and life, on Amazon now. Relationship Equity with Richard Walker is a production of Forbes Books.